Yeah, I think yeah, I definitely I it is I think it's telling though that like sexual deviance often is like an aspect of cult dynamics. Like I think what like 30 to 50% of them end up having some sort of like weird sexual aspect to them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like there is like that secrecy and like I'm like what is it, the chicken or the egg? And I would have to believe it's the I don't know, it comes after presumably, right? Like it's like you've created a power structure and now you're trying to take advantage of that power structure, but do you think that that is like like are there any cults that are derived from sexual deviancy? Like I don't think BDSM is just like coming up with cults, are they?
No, I mean, I'm not sure. The answer is I'm not sure. I could conceptualize a world in which they could be kind of chicken egg cyclical, but I do tend to agree with you in that it would probably start as, you know what though, now that I think about it, no, because if you talk about a lot of like what we would call psychopathology
Yeah.
in psychological terms, which is a broad term that we don't use in actual
Hmm.
psychology to refer to a group of disorders, but these are ones where children frequently will engage in unacceptable and inappropriate behavior, like harming animals, inappropriate
Yeah.
behavior with siblings or peers, inappropriate relationships, that sort of thing. And that I don't think could possibly be generated from a power structure by definition if you're a child.
Hmm.
Perhaps there's a power dynamic with maybe a younger sibling or classmates or something like that. But I think that the genesis of that pathology would precede the later kind of power dynamic that they might devolve into engaging in. But I don't think that that's necessarily the antecedent to all pervs.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I had to like
Not all
yeah.
pervs are
Yeah,
psychopaths.
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, okay, yeah. I was like, I
I,
had to wrap my brain around that one for a second. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's
No,
I'm
no, no,
I'm
no, no, no.
hesitant to be more explicit about
No.
it just for a couple of reasons, but
I'm
there's different degrees of dirtbag. There's some people
oh,
that are
100%.
just like kind of general assholes, and then there's like pure unadulterated evil and a whole bunch of shades within between those two
No, 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 no.
things that I'm like,
No,
ugh.
no, 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 no. Yeah, sorry. I just had to like wrap my brain around what you were saying. Not that I disagreed with. I was like, I don't think
I was probably being
all.
deliberately opaque because I didn't want to be mistaken as defending some psychopath
I
or
don't
its
think. Yeah,
animals
I
like
don't
their
think.
child.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think all pervs are psychopaths. Also, I don't think all psychopaths are pervs necessarily because there's plenty of.
Both are bad on their own.
Yes, that's
I'm
fair.
just gonna go ahead and call that
There's
right out.
overlap, but anyways, okay.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Both is worse than either in isolation, but either
Yeah.
either is fine for me to be like, not great,
Where the
not great.
overlap occurs is probably the worst. Probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, last one
yeah.
is
Hmm.
dispensing of existence. The group determines who is morally legitimate or
Hmm.
worthy of belonging. Outsiders may be portrayed as corrupt, misguided, or dangerous. Leaving the group can be framed as losing one's value,
Hmm.
purpose, moral standing, or include social death.
Yeah.
Like you won't make it outside of this group.
Which
So
I think
those are
is
the eight.
going back to religions, I think I know we want to like justify them as like actual religions or ways
Mhm.
of life and stuff, but like Amish and Mennonitism are like very similar to that, right? Like if you leave the Amish lifestyle, like you're it's not excommunication, there's another word for it entirely. Oh yeah, you're shunned. Like that's
Yeah.
completely. So like that's honestly so, like and the fact that they are I think it's respectable in some ways to be like, oh, we're gonna live this like old school purist lifestyle, but again, it's like this isolation from the group around you and like lack of
Mhm.
information coming in because of you're cutting yourself off from like other parts of society that I think is like very, very
Yeah.
similar to that. And I think I
Yeah.
followed like a couple content creators that have left those lifestyles and talk about those aspects of it. Another content creator actually follow who actually she was raised in a sex cult, which is which again is I guess another
Which
whole
which one? show.
Children of
The
God.
culting.
Children of God, I believe.
Okay,
But
yeah, that I've
so
heard that's a bad one.
yes. So Daniela Mestyanek Young. I just started reading her first book, Uncultured, which is a memoir, but her second one is actually talking about how like cults exist in the mainstream in America, and I actually like well, like I started both of them very recently. They're quite good. They're very
I think
interesting.
I favorited the audiobook of this
Yes.
in looking for material for
Yeah.
this. I have to see if it's so, pardon
S
me, the one I'm thinking
Since
of,
we're like
but
getting to like our last like 15
yeah.
minutes or so, I just wanted to like offer this as a recommendation. If this has been like
Hmm.
um it's if you are interested in this topic and you want like to do further reading on it, like check it out. This Culting of America actually literally just came out like 2 months ago, so like it's very like highly relevant to like what is going on in the
Right.
US right now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so just like a plug. Maybe and again, I'm always like if we continue vulgar science in the way that we're doing it, I'd love to have like guests and like on relevant
Yeah.
topics that we've had, so maybe we can like ask her to come
Yeah.
join
So
us at some point.
tell your friends, help
Yes.
legitimize us.
Yes, exactly. Would love to do something like that. So, anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I mean, I have a bunch of other studies that I kind of looked at that talk about just like areas of the brain and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But what it all really boiled down to
Mhm.
was that when persuasion of any kind was occurring, lots of this had to do with ads
Yeah.
and uh, brand association. So people that are like, I prefer Coke over Pepsi, kind of like that sort of like stronger brand affiliate takes that people will have, and showing them persuasive media for or against whatever their chosen one was. So if they were a Pepsi, then they would be shown pro Coke or anti Pepsi content. There was a lot of that sort of stuff. What most of it kind of said was cortical regions. So this is our higher order processing that humans and some apes and simians kind of usually are the ones kind of being told we are told that they have. Lower order mammals don't tend to have that. That's what's being recruited, or in this case, not recruited when persuasion is
Mhm.
happening. So it tends to appeal to different, also cortical or subcortical areas where it kind of identifies sorting sometimes, but usually it's basically down regulated in the participants that are effectively persuaded. So they'll do this with certain people, and the
Mm.
ones that started as Pepsi, saw anti Pepsi stuff, and then switched to Coke, those people will have those areas of top down control. So that's when you're thinking, I shouldn't say this. I want to tell this person to fuck
Mm.
off and die, but
Mm.
I shouldn't say that. That's your top down control. So
Interesting.
this is disengaged in those individuals that were effectively persuaded away from their initial preference. And they looked also at whether or not the legitimacy or the value of the message was I guess aligned. The best way to explain it is if you have Andre Agassi selling you tennis shoes, that would be a very aligned kind of endorsement.
Mhm.
That would be graded as more what?
Remind me who Andre Agassi is. This is so
He's a very famous tennis player.
okay. Thank you.
Roger
Okay,
Federer, Serena
that's it. Yeah,
Williams,
yeah, yeah.
any of that.
Okay.
Just anybody that like, okay, this is their domain.
Yeah.
They would know that, right? So if they're endorsing something in that domain, you could
Mhm.
say, okay, that's a high value endorsement versus Roger Federer or Serena Williams supporting a betting app or something on your phone. And they look at, again, the persuasiveness of these things. And when those misaligned or not cogent kind of persuasive advertisements are shown, again it's these kind of like cortical um, higher order processing self-control things
Yeah.
are inhibited. And most importantly, in almost all of these studies, people are like, nah, wasn't convincing, didn't work on me. And it
Yeah.
just super did, even though like they'll fill out visual analog scales, which is basically you give someone a line and you tell them how persuaded were you this side of the line, just like draw a line on it,
Yeah.
right? Layla used these a lot, I think,
Yeah.
when you
Well, yeah,
were
like a zero, or just a Likert as well, like a 0 to 5 rating. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So, anyways, people will be like, "It didn't work on me," and then self-report in such a fashion that it did work on them,
Oh.
even though their own verbal self-report
Yeah.
said that it didn't. And so, essentially, we all think we're immune. We are all not immune,
Mm-hmm.
and it works in a lot of cases. And yeah, there's one more thing that I could get onto, but I don't want to take up the entire rest of our time. So,
No, I mean, the only other thing that I was gonna bring up was I think this is like very much us as psychologists know like the classic Stanley Milgram obedience study, and how that sort of plays into dynamics.
I also
Um,
had that.
oh, I'm dead. Okay, so I'll just like again, these are just like last closing points that I think are like very
BFFs
interesting.
for life.
I know, right? It's our training. So I'll just really quickly pull up.
Better Off Ted, there's actually some really good, specifically anti-smoking research around this area. Um, if While Layla's getting that up, I'm gonna
Yeah, yeah,
run and
yeah,
grab my
yeah.
physical papers, and I will try and put a source in there for you to look at. So give me one
Yeah,
sec.
yeah.
Forgot that I have like
So there's
actual
so
papers.
like when you're a psychology student, you will like typically learn about this study in like the first your first like Psych 101 class essentially. And essentially it's a study about obedience where there was a Confederate in a room pretending to
I
be
share one brain cell for real. We share like 1,000 brain cells, you
Yes,
fucks.
yeah, thanks
Come on.
guys. We have many overlapping brain cells. So essentially, so again, it was done at Yale. It was like a long time ago. A lot of classic psychology studies also would not pass ethical like
Stanford
boards.
prison experiment?
Stan-
I mean, what are you
yeah,
guys doing over there, Ivy
Stanford,
League ass?
yeah, Stanford
Well,
prison experiment. This one specifically as well. So this is there's a Confederate, which is just an actor in a room, and they're pretending to be shocked by a participant who's coming in, and essentially the participant will like administer shocks, and then over
mhm.
time there'll be a there's like an administrator, like scientist, whoever was in the room with them saying you have to keep shocking them, you have to keep shocking them, and the
Yeah.
actor is starting to like writhe on the floor and like scream and say, oh my god, I'm in so much pain, stop, stop, stop. And the participant would continue to fake shock them at the behest of the like administrator, like scientist in the room telling them to do so. And so like obedient, like this was an examination of like essentially how willing people are to follow sort of an I don't know how to use the word yeah, like an authority figure if they're telling them to do something that they can perceive as obviously morally wrong. And they would often protest and say, I don't want to continue shocking this person. This seems wrong. I shouldn't be doing this. But the authority figure would be like,
He'd just be like, you
you
gotta.
have to, and they would continue to do so. So
Yeah.
like this dynamic also plays into cults, obviously, because there's this charismatic leader who is an authority figure who is telling you to do something which you may maybe disagree with morally, but because of all of the things that we've talked about, how your identity is attached to the the conformity of this cult environment, this family per se that you've enmeshed yourself with, you will do what that person tells you to do. That's my last little soapbox.
Yeah.
What did you wanna throw out there, Alicia?
I'm just giving Better Off TED a study that was about self-regulated neural responses to tailored smoking cessation messages and how much that predicts quitting. So it talks about just kind of the efficacy of the messages in that
Mm-hmm.
one. I believe it was how tailored it was to the person
These
that
are conscious messaging, right? Not like subconscious messaging.
no, yeah, this is explicit
Okay,
anti-smoking
got it.
or smoking cessation ads. So basically what they did is they asked each of them a whole bunch about their smoking. So someone would be like, I'm a pack a day, I love smoking in the car, they would learn all of this stuff, and they would give some people a very targeted, tailored to them ad about like smoking 1 pack a day leads to X% increase in your whatever. But it would be tailored to them versus smoking a lot or something that was less personalized would be, for a different group kind of thing. And what they found was, I think